Hello. You've either just stumbled upon or have been a long-time listener of the Animation Industry Podcast. There is no in between. My name is Terry, and I'm actually currently in Spain right now. Barcelona, in fact. This chat is with Brooklyn-based comedian, writer, actor, producer, and comic artist Branson Reese, who shares his journey from starting Swanboy, his webcomic, to pitching and producing it into an animated series, which was just part of FXX's Cake. In our chat, Branson is going to talk about how to self-publish and put yourself out there, his top tips when pitching stuff to industry people, how to continuously be funny, and general thoughts about what's cool about animation. This may actually be one of the most chill chats I've had on this podcast, so without further ado, let's jump in. Hi, Branson. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I love doing these chats, so let's chat. Let's start off with the fun subject of, what is your philosophy on promoting yourself to get where you want to be and do what you want to do
Oh, yeah,
thing?
do it. I get my philosophy on it is don't be shy. Get out, put yourself out there. Yeah, you gotta. I don't know how. I'm sure there's a way to do it not like that. You know what I mean? I think be shameless. P.T. Barnum yourself. Just
So from day one, you're like, I'm going to make some cute little comics on my own and then promote them.
Yeah, I mean, even that, to backtrack a little, it's 2017, I think I started doing these daily comics, right? And I'm just going to assume if anyone listening to me on the, you know a little bit about this, I had these daily comics that I was doing, and I mean, just posting them, it's one thing to do them, that's very therapeutic, but it's another to share them with people and put them out there, and I know it can be scary, it can be a little bit of a hurdle, it'd be oh, what if I'm bad, what if everyone makes fun of me, and that might happen.
Did people make fun of you?
Well, I'm not, to me, I'm great, but to anyone listening, okay. You might suck, I don't know what your deal, that's fine though, just put it out there anyway, and So
what were you doing at this time in 2017? Is this time of your life where you decided to do something therapeutic, post a comic every single day? What compelled you to do that?
The ability to do it. So my fiance had gotten me a pad, a digital, a Wacom tablet to draw, because I'd been drawing forever. I'd been a comedian, and I was just drawing on takeout napkins and shit, and just throwing them away. And she was like,
the opposite of promoting yourself.
True. Well, yeah, I needed to draw. I just was I'm gonna draw. And then I was well, this isn't for anything. This was just to draw. It's coming from that same impulse of being a child and you can't pay attention to math and you're just drawing, right? It's that same thing. And so I was just continuing to do that as an adult. And she was like, hey, it sucks watching you throw art away. It's unpleasant. Why don't we just get a digital pad, and it doesn't take up any physical space to, or maybe I don't know how a computer works. Maybe it's a microscopic amount of physical space is being taken up by uploading a drawing onto a computer. And I was like, well, if it's going on a computer, I might as well post it for everyone to see. Let's not cut corners here. Let's just do it. And so I started posting daily comics. And you do 5 days of daily comics, and then it's this question of okay, am I going to do Saturday or am I going to wait until Monday? And then when I did one on Saturday, I was like, well, fuck it. This is going to be the whole year. I'm just going to do once a day. I'm going to, at midnight, arbitrarily, I'll post a new comic. And so, yeah, that's where that came. It just came from I'm doing it anyway. I might as well share it with people.
Did a following kind of naturally grow from just you doing this, or were you actively, trying to push it in people's faces, talk to people who repost stuff, get in touch with magazines, or I don't know.
No, and I still don't really do a lot of that, to be honest. It's especially that time in 2017, a lot of my stuff was well, this is trash. I'm trash. I make trash.
Did you have a big following? Because you have on Twitter, you have 70-something thousand followers.
Did you like that? Yeah, it's the
before you started posting this. Did you have followers?
No, I mean, I had my friends and the comedy. I was a comedian, and so I had some comedy friends, but who gives a shit? The not a ton. It was just my buddies and stuff. And then it's sort
hopefully they're not listening to this.
They know how I feel about them. Yeah. but it's like it's look, I love them, but it's not. It wasn't like it hadn't spread, and it just a year of doing it consistently. It just built an audience and built a following, and so now I can sort of do whatever. And people, I know there's like there's somewhat of an audience of people who like are paying attention to me.
Does that get in your mind a little bit? Like before, it sounds like you're just creating for the sense of, you're drawing and just seeing what happens. And now that you have a following and you've worked on big projects like Swanboy and We Bare Bears, et cetera, are you conscious of people analyzing what you do and if it's up to par of your past projects now that you create something? Or you're just like, whatever, I'm just going to do what I want?
I'm sure it's some of both. It's way more in the second camp of it's like, enough people talk to you online and you develop either a thick skin or like just a sense of like, all right, look, people are going to talk no matter what I do. People are going to give me notes or be like, oh, you missed, like, what about this inferior punchline that I think is better? Like, what if you had done that? Like, it's fine. It comes with the territory. And so it's a little, every once in a while I'll post something and be like, hope I don't lose my account. I hope I don't get banned.
Because it's a little risky or something.
Well, and I'm like inciting political violence or something. Yeah, and I'm kidding, but like, it's to a moderator.
Kidding, guys.
yeah, to a moderator dispassionately like looking through like, I understand. It's like I've been locked down before, but like, that's it. That's mostly. It's like I just feel it's like people know. People know what I do. They know what to expect at this point. But also, I just think it's like there's so many people. There's just so many people in there's billions. I can't even comprehend how many people there are in the world, which means there's so many people with different tastes, with different, and there's so many people who are creating things. And so it's like, if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, what do I fucking care? Like it doesn't, like, just ignore me, dude. And then they mostly do. And so it's like no harm, no foul.
Totally. I want to get a kind of sense of your overall career. So you consider yourself a comedian, like first and foremost, like that's which if somebody says like, what do you do as a career?
I've had more success with cartoonists. So now I say that, but it all comes from the same place, which is like, I'm a comedian. I want to make people laugh.
Like, because I want to understand how you went from like, I want to tell funny jokes to like working on all these cool projects and in such a range too, like, you're drawing, you're writing, etc. Like, how do I say I'm like, I think I'm a funny guy. I want to become a comedian. How do I go and like pitch a show like Swanboy or like work on a Cartoon Network series as a writer? Like, like how is it, are you always trying to like up your comedy and pitch yourself, or is it more about like connections and who and people just know you're a funny guy? Like, how do you end up getting these
it's
things?
More connections than anything. I feel like everyone always like very ruefully says like, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's like that to me, that's like the what is it, like the anthem of like an asshole, it's like, well, sure, but like ideally the people would like you because you're easy to be around. It's like that. I don't know. I've never heard anyone say that ruefully who was like easy to spend time with, like, yeah, it is. It's not what you know, it's who you know, but that's not a bad thing. That's just so you're
how did,
human.
For instance, like, how did you specifically get to work on We Bare Bears?
Great. Now, what a segue. This is exactly it. That was a friend of mine. My friend, Mikey Heller, who's extremely talented cartoonist and comedian.
He was on this podcast.
Mikey rules. I'm sure this is a great episode then. Mikey, I could listen to Mikey talk about cartoons for a year. The maybe two. I don't know. It's I love hanging out with Mikey and talking to him. He was nice enough to get me a job on We Bare Bears. I had been posting these comics for like a few months at that point, and I knew Mikey from comedy. We had done shows together and things. And he was like, "Hey, I got this job from posting," because he's also does what his episode's there. Then everyone can know what his story is. He had gotten his job there, and he was like, "Well, I don't know his thought process, but to me it seemed to be like, why not pay that forward?" And he got me a job on We Bare Bears doing like storyboarding and like punch ups, and I don't even know what my like the name of the job was there, but I was like writing and storyboarding.
Wait, do you have professional training? Did you go to school for any of this, or you're just like, I'm a creative person, I do these projects, my experience is like, just formed by myself?
Yeah, it's just formed
like storyboarding, writing, like those are all like, very formulaic things.
You can pick it up though. It's like they're all very frustrating, but there are like YouTube tutorials you can watch where a Swedish guy has like a 12-minute intro, like, all right, hey guys, so today we're going to be like, those are out there, and you can watch. And I watched them, and that helped me learn how to storyboard or
So
like.
thank you to this frustrating Swedish guy with a 12-minute intro. You
They're
got
all
ugly
Northern
bears.
European. And that's I'm just noticing what I'm seeing. I mean, it's like out. You can teach yourself that, or you can. I certainly am a proponent of like just get the job and then figure it out on the fly. Like, it was a lot of that. It was I didn't have any. I did take. I should say shout out to Miss Pfeiffer in 8th grade. I did take an art class, and Miss Alvarez Kiefer in 2nd grade was my art teacher. But beyond that, I haven't had any like art training, which I think you can tell. I think it shows.
But also like, you're when I look at your work, I see like very independently creative, unique style and voice type of artist type of thing. So, okay, how do you go from not having, so Swanboy is obviously a comic that you've been running for a while.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting it on Cake? Sorry?
That's a great question. It's weird. It's a weird thing happened.
Tell me.
For that. Sure, yeah. I was making so I turned 30, and I got stressed about turning 30 because it's so important for me to be young that I made a webcomic about, it was like autobiographical, but it was a little bit about a swan. To be completely candid and honest, I forgot a little bit why I made it in the first place. that sort of is like the convenient story, but it really was just like, just making something to make something. And it was fun, and it caught on, it's just like it caught on with me, which means that then it can catch on with other people. Or I was like, oh, I like this guy. He's me, but I can dial up certain aspects of myself and like nasty parts of myself, and then like that's fun. I think that's a good way to write a character. Is like it's you, but it's the worst parts of you. And so I was doing more and more of that. I was having more and more fun with it. That comic in particular was very inspired by Achewood, which is an incredible webcomic. The nerve of me to say I was even inspired by, but it was like, that was like what I was like, ooh, it's like, I feel like I'm getting to write in this sort of style. This is fun for me. And then out of the blue, FX reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're putting stuff together for Cake, which already exists at this point. Like we're making Cake episodes. Would you like to do like an animated Swanboy?
So you were just running this comic like on your site?
Yeah, and it just fell in my fucking life. It was incredible. I mean,
you weren't actively being like, I want to reach out to outlets and turn this into something else. You're just like, I'm gonna just keep doing this. Like, it
wasn't there yet. I mean, I'm totally comfortable doing stuff like that, but like I wasn't there. I mean, there were like 2 weeks of comics at that point. What the hell? That's insane. Yeah.
Did you ever ask like how they found you afterwards?
I didn't want to jinx it. There's a part of me that's like, if I ask,
how did you find this?
Wait, you're right, and then it all goes away. But I do know it was through my friend Katie Skelton. It's just like somebody talked to somebody, and then this led to this, and somebody read my comics, and like I just got a call, and we talked about Swanboy. And there weren't a ton of them at the time, so the guy on the other end, John Agbaje, he was like, "Well, what do you think about Swanboy? What about this? What about?" He just sort of asked some like.
How do you sell yourself in the moment when you're caught off guard like that, and then you're like, "I've only done this for 2 weeks and haven't really thought about it as like a series of cartoons."
I am very lucky that I am like psychotically confident and just. I mean, I am. It's just like I'm great, dude. Like doesn't mean anyone else is bad. I rule, like that. It's not easy. It's not hard for me to access that. And so on a call like that, when instantly you can tell it's like, ooh, this, something, I know I'm talking to FX right now. Let's like sell it. Is like, that does not feel uncomfortable for me. And so if that's uncomfortable, I understand that is like,
totally. I'd be like sweating, pacing back and forth. I'd be like, oh, it's not good enough. Like,
yeah, it's like, I mean, I get that for sure. I'm very blessed that doesn't happen.
Congratulations.
I get freaked out about some things, but that was one where I was like, well, let's do it.
Maybe you need to put together like a 12-minute intro YouTube video on how to have that confidence that I will then watch and then use that in my own pitching.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it would like, I guess the best advice I could give for someone watching this is like, be extremely young watching this right now. And then just fuck up constantly in childhood so that you'll hear no all the time and it'll like start to sink into you. It's like, it's not the end of the world.
Perfect,
You can
because
be in trouble.
my main audience for this podcast is 5 to 10 year olds, so that makes
Oh, great. I'll watch the language. But like, yeah, it's like, just fail a bunch and you'll realize it's not the end of the world to fail or to be in trouble or to hear no. It's like, who cares? You'll move on.
So what happened when you got off that phone call when they were like, we want to explore making Swanboy into a series for
Oh, I walked 10 miles. I was like living in Brooklyn at the time. I was just like, fuck, and I just walked and walked and I had all this energy to burn, so I just walked. That was the immediate thing. And then I just like then there were emails, and then there were phone calls, and we just started developing it.
So what was your role in like development? Like, were you like showrunner, I guess, or like director, or like?
I think I explicitly am showrunner of the. I don't know. I this is like with the We Bare Bears thing. It's like I don't know even like the terms or the roles.
I just do cool stuff. Like, were you writing the episodes? Were you animating? Were you drawing?
Yeah, I wrote all of the episodes. I don't know how to animate, and that's not one that you can YouTube yourself into. That is like a truly complicated and like I hope it doesn't sound like I'm like talking shit about things that people went to school for. Like these things are complicated. Like I am learning them so I can do them, but I'm not under the the misapprehension that that's the same as somebody storyboarding who went to school for it. Totally. I'm not doing it at that level, but I can do it enough to like express myself, which is like, that's all I need. So I didn't animate Swanboy, and this is a great segue. We FX let me sort of like talk around to different animation studios, and they were like, well, is there an animation studio you'd like to work with? And
your choice.
I was like, well, they shut Termite Terrace.
And you're
down.
Like Disney.
I know it's like how about them? But honestly, my number one choice is who we ended up going with, which was Augenblick Studios, because I've been a huge fan of like Ugly Americans and Super Jail and their short segment in the 10, the David Wayne. That was like the first thing I ever saw of theirs, and I was like, who is that? And as luck would have it, at the time, I lived like a 5-minute walk from their studio.
You didn't even have to walk 10 miles.
Yeah, it was easy. Yeah, I overshot to, I was so excited. I looped around it. I didn't even realize. So I went over there. I met to meet with them, and like instantly, the second I started talking to Aaron Augenblick, the head of Augenblick Studios, I was like, "Oh, this is the one. This is the And I did the dude. I talked to other studios too, but like that.
What are you even saying? Like you have this like this pitch in the back of your mind where you're like, we need animation company to create a bunch of short segment things and like my style. So you're just like calling up like XYZ animation studio, being like, hey guys, can you take on this project right now? And like, what will you price it at? And like, what is the benefit of working with you? Like, I don't even know. How does that
pretty
even
much
go?
Yeah, I mean, they would be phone calls, or I would have like a Zoom meeting with people, because I was in New York at the time and everyone's in LA. And so they would be like Zoom meetings, or and this is FX was setting all this up for. They were nice enough to set all this up for me. And so then I had an in-person meeting. Obviously, it was easy to. I had an in-person meeting at Augenblick Studios, and it's just like the second you get there and you see how that like the studios are set up, and there's like pictures of Betty Boop up on the wall, and like I just pitched it to Aaron. I was like, here's my webcomic, here's what I'm thinking. And he like right away, he was asking all the right questions, and was like, well, what are your influences? Because it seems to be this. And I was like, you're very right, it is, and then without prompting, he was like, and you're gonna voice Swanboy, right? It just, you sound like him from what I've read of these, like you're gonna voice him, right? And I was like, well, this is, nobody had asked, but that was my dream. And he was like, well, then if you go here, you'll, come on, you should voice Swanboy. And I was like, oh, this is stupid. Why would I go with anyone else? This is perfect.
Yeah, you're like, oh shucks, like
it's like I've been a big fan of them for years, since I was like in high school. Like,
why are we even talking? Let's just sign a deal. Like,
yeah.
Amazing.
But that was the thing. It was like I was such a big fan of them before. It's like that's very, it's easy to get your hopes dashed. Like I could have gone in and it could have sucked, or they could have been jerks or anything. But like, no, it's the coolest place in the world.
So how long did it take you to produce all these episodes and voice act and write and not animate and etc.?
So the animation was done at Augenblick Studios, and we also used the studio Combo. I think it's Combo Studios in Brazil, who did a lot of like the actual animation for it. I mean, it's like, it's a simple question, but I feel like my answer is like completely unhinged, where it's like, it took 3 years and also like a few months because the timeline was weird. And like, we were sending, you know, it's like the development for anything. It's like you do the pilot, and then you get all these notes on the pilot, and it's just the pilot,
Yeah.
and then you hear nothing for a long time. You don't know what's going on, and then there's scripts that have to get approved, and so it's like ultimately, I think it like took around 2.5 years with everything, but like for some of these episodes, like I wrote them and we started producing so it's like different episodes take different amounts of time. The voice acting is like, I don't know what a normal schedule is, but like during COVID, it was like I was in my closet just like shouting as the Swan, like everything insulated, like they mailed me a mic. Like it's yeah, I don't know. It's like every step of it took a different amount of time, and I've never show run before, and I've only done it in COVID, so much of it is like disjointed, and I don't know what of that is COVID, what of that is normal, what of that is like, because Cake is so many different properties, you know, it's like an anthology show. They're doing so many different things. I don't know what a normal process is like. I know what this process is like. And
But honestly, it sounds just fun and kind of interesting, like a good challenge. Okay, but also, are you working full time those 2.5/3 years just on this project, or like were you doing stuff in the meantime too? Because it sounds like there was like a lot of downtime between getting notes or like waiting for things. So like, how were you managing that as well?
I was the last like year I've been working pretty much full time on Swanboy, and so that's been that. But before that, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of like, you know, you could just Tokyo drift an entire other job through like the empty spaces in the, you know, and like how long stuff. And so I was doing, you know, I got to eat. Like I was, you know, I was babysitting. I was doing other jobs. I have a podcast I do. I was doing that. We were getting a podcast started, like that kind of. It's D&D. It's nothing to do with animation. But Rude Tales of Magic, ABC. It's very good. So I was doing that. I was doing my own comics. You know, I have my own Patreon that I was just sort of like putting comics into, and so I stay busy. I was doing other stuff.
So then how is doing something like Swanboy changed the future of your career? Like what's next for you now? Are you still going to be, you know, doing all these other projects, babysitting, D&D podcast, Patreon, or has this like opened your mind to like, you know, animated television series and that's your thing? Like what's next for you / what do you want to work on / what's going on / whatever?
Yeah. I would love to work in animation the rest of my life. You know, it's
done.
like I love making comics, but like there is I would love making. I'll probably never stop making comics, but there's no particular drive that's like comic specific. I just like to make cartoons, like, and so if they're animated, that rules. That's exciting. There's all sorts of stuff you can do in animation, and you're working with these people that are, I think, like, you know, everyone's, you know, use the talents you possess. The woods would be quiet if no birds sang except the best. But like, there are people working on Swanboy who are significantly more talented than I am in terms of like what they're able to do. You know, like, we have these storyboarders who like blow my mind. They're so talented what they're able to like make happen and how they're able to draw, and like I don't have that. That rules. So like to get to work with them, it just makes it better. Or like I will be here all day if I'm just like listing every name of everybody who we were working with, people like Katie Went or Jeremy Jusset at like Augenblick Studios, who are like, they can do things I just can't do, you know? And like now I get to put my name on that too. It's like, that feels like cheating. It rules. Like, I don't want to stop doing that. I want to keep working with them. I want to keep meeting people in this industry who can do that. Like, I love, my dream, you know, is like I would have loved to like been making Looney Tunes at Turner.
Like, so We Bare Bears and Swanboy, it sounds like, you know, they kind of fell into your lap from the friendships, connections, and just the things you were doing. But thinking about all your experience in your journey and like comedy, etc., how would you, if you're intentionally trying to get more into animation, how would you manufacture that success going forward now with everything that you've done and learned?
If I was right now, like trying to move forward.
Right, like after this chat, you're gonna do something. I don't know what it is.
Sure. Wait, so this is me, or this is just like the listener?
You.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I was like, you want me to give advice, or like, so
both? Well, the listener will figure out advice from what you're gonna do. If you're gonna like, I'm gonna call up my friend to whatever, like, you know.
I do that. I'll put out calls to friends, or I'll just like make a post or something, like close friend circle on Instagram. It's like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Like, you know, like I don't think, who cares? Like, there's no shame in that. Like that is like I'll just ask. You know, I have management. I'm repped by 2 very good managers. Like, I'll just talk to them and be like, hey, I want to do this now. Like, I want to write more. I've loved writing on Swan. I want to write more. Can we do that? And they're like, yeah, we're your managers. Of course we can do, like, come on. Like, and so that, like, I don't know. I say it, I ask for it. And then if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, but there's no harm in asking.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So like you, also, how does the manager thing work? Like, so I don't have a manager.
Sure.
So you're like, hey, manager, like, I want to write more on animated series, and they're like, cool, we'll go out and scout out opportunities and put your name out there and come back to you with whatever we get. And
Yeah,
that's
pretty
how it
much. And they
works.
set up general meetings, and you have Zoom calls with people, or if we ever get rid of this COVID stuff, like, then I'll go in person and meet with people, and that's it. You meet with them, and you see the vibe, and you send your materials of stuff you have written. And meanwhile, I said this, but like, I'm writing pilots, I'm writing scripts, I'm putting pitches together for shows that'll never see the light of day, like that. But just to make them, just to have them and to send to people and be like, hey, here's my vibe.
Yeah.
Like, ideally, they would want to make the show, but realistically, you just pitch it. It's like, this is the kind of stuff I'm into make. This is, hey, maybe keep me in mind if you're staffing a room or something, or if you're putting storyboarders together or something. Like, you need someone to do thumbnails. You just sort of let them know, like, I did this on this. If you liked it, I can do more of it for you. It's just it's a very simple, just like here's what I did. Pretty good, right? If you like it, that's me. And also, you just meet them in person to be like, I'm easy to talk to.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, yeah. Because like I feel like, yeah, at least from reading resumes forever in like my past job, it's like I'd rather just meet the person to figure out who they are versus like this well sculpted, crafted resume
Yeah.
that's kind of half a lie and like who knows what this actually means, whatever. So yeah. I guess if somebody's listening and they're like a budding comedian or writer or something like that, and they're looking up to you and they're like, I want to do cool stuff like him. Like, what would you tell them is like the number one thing to like focus on, either like skill wise or like just soft skill,
Yeah.
hard skill, whatever? Like what is the thing that they should keep in mind to do that will propel them to new and great opportunities that they want to pursue?
I would say focus on the thing that makes you laugh. Especially if you're a comedian. If you're coming at it from like a comedian angle, like, focus on the thing that you think is funny, that actually makes you try to make yourself laugh, and then everything else will follow. And it'll probably take a long time, and you're gonna be unhappy while that like, for real, like, straight.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the best, like,
No, please, like, give it to me straight. Like, I think
yeah,
it's
I've been
good.
asked. It's like, how do you succeed? It's like, I failed for a solid decade. I just ate shit for 10 entire years.
Yeah.
You got it. I don't know any other way. You got to do that.
So then what okay, if you're eating shit for 10 years and you're just sad and you're failing, what is propelling you forward? Like, is there this like ultimate dream in your mind where you're like, I can see the light maybe at the end of the tunnel if I just do this forever? Or is it just ingrained in who you are? Like, I have to do this no matter what.
Well, I hope I'm not. I don't want to be misleading. Like, you're gonna be sad just from like the failing of it, of just wanting to do something and not doing it. But if you're sad for 10 whole years doing it, stop. You don't like it, just stop. You don't have to give up, do something else. It is fine to give up. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're sad for 1 year doing it, don't keep doing it. The thing that kept me going was I loved it. I loved it.
Okay.
Loved
there we go. So
yeah,
you loved it so much that makes total sense to me.
yeah. If you love it so much you don't mind eating shit, then you are in the right place.
Yeah,
I hate the like, if you have anything else you could do, go do that. I think is so like condescending and dismissive. Like, no, if you want to do it, you'll keep doing it. Like,
Yeah.
But ideally, if while you are failing, while you are putting up your show with your buddy, that it's the two of you and one person comes, and so now the people on stage outnumber the people in the audience. Like, if that's not funny to you that happened, and if you're not like happy to be just performing anywhere, and if you like are getting your feelings hurt when you post a comic and nobody responds to it because it didn't make you laugh, then maybe give up. That's fine. It's fine. It's not the end of the world to give up. But if you're enjoying it, if you're really like making yourself laugh and making your friends, like, if it's for you,
Yeah.
then I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll never happen.
But
Maybe
I love what you just said,
fail.
because, like, I've experienced things where like I get all my hopes up for what I think other people are going to like by creating something. And then I put it out there and nobody likes it, which is a natural reaction because, I didn't put any heart into it. And then I get discouraged and I like try again and try to, like, my whole business career is just figuring out what other people want and doing that shit. Like, you know, marketing is just like, what do other people want? Let's focus group, let's study, let's analyze, then create what they want. And then like me coming into my artistic career had some of that mindset, which was bad. But I've also realized that, you know, if I don't care who sees it and I'm just having a good time, then somehow that's ended up being more successful just overall. So
yeah, I
really
mean, it's
what
like
you said.
From the marketing perspective too, it's like that is what they want. They want you, you know, they want you. It's like, because I was an actor for years too. And it's like audition, you only book an audition if you don't care if you get the part, I think. Like it, like maybe I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but certainly that's true for me. Like they want you, you know, they want you to do well. They want to see you.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not right for it, or it didn't work, or you forgot the lines, or whatever. Like, and it's the same with comics, or like, you know, or art, or comedy, or whatever. Like, if you're not enjoying it, why are you wasting their time?
Totally. I love that sentiment. You know, we've chatted about how things came to be, how it was, and where things are going. Is there anything else that you wanted to infuse in this chat for the 5 to 10-year-olds who are listening?
Oh God, for the little kids, you know, stay clean, don't do drugs. It's just slow you down. It's just gonna slow you down. You know,
drugs are gonna slow you down. Just don't do them.
They are. It's you know, you'd be talking to a much more successful Branson right now if I'd stayed on the clean and narrow. The I don't know. That's we could talk. I love cartoons. We'll talk cartoons if you want to. Yeah, I don't know. I'll go wherever with this.
I'm just wondering
you
if
wanted
there's
to
any,
talk to me about.
There's any topics. Well, I'm just also conscious of time, but is there? I'm just wondering.
I'm fine.
I'm just wondering if there's any topics that you think are important for people to hear from your journey or story, or even just comics. Like, you know, like so like, do you consume comics that also are in the same genre of what you are creating just because they're similar, or are you like, I want stuff that's totally different? I don't know.
I think no, that's a great question. It tends to be close. I mean, flattering myself to say this, but like it tends to be closer to what I'm making.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, I like gag comics, and I like sort of experimental stuff. The I don't know. Something I loved reading in quarantine was the Crisis Zone from Megahex. Did you read this? It's great.
Not, but I'm gonna look it up. Recommend me some comics right now.
Simon Hanselman does Megahex. It's a great comic. I love it. Mikey Heller, speaking of the amazing, I recommend Mikey Heller's book to everyone. He's a great gag cartoonist. He just does like these incredible 4-panel comics. It's very inspiring. Alec Robbins with did you read the Mr. Boop?
I looked up Crisis Zone, and I know I just didn't realize it was called Crisis Zone. But yeah, it's like with the witch and the owl. Yeah.
Incredible. Or like older stuff, like I mean, he's still active, but like Gary Panter or like Raymond Pettibone, like those guys are like very inspiring for me. Like old like Life in Hell comics, like that tends to be where I stay. Like I'll read a superhero comic every now and then. That's not my thing. I never am drawn back to it, but I feel like just to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, what's going on here influenced me somehow.
It's like why people saw Passion of the Christ back when it was like, well, I just want to know what everyone's talking about, but I don't care. I'm not throwing anything at.
Don't worry, I never saw it, so.
Well, I'm not. I'll throw anything at that. I don't care. But I met at like the big two or anyone who works there. Like that's fine. Yeah, that rules. Totally. It's just not what I'm like into.
No, I'm the same. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I'll like go and watch like the Marvel movies just because. You know, everybody's you can't avoid it forever. Reddit's talking about it. You're like, I gotta check this out.
I also think if you're gonna be a comedian, it's like not ideal to be a Luddite. You know, like it's like, you want to know what people are talking. You want to know what's happening. You want to know, even if you don't make a joke about it. Yeah, exactly. It's good to. It's the same reason it's like a good. You know, you should be well read. You know, watch a lot of things, read a lot of things. It couldn't hurt.
That's right.
I mean, you're gonna watch a movie that ruins you.
Yeah, but also, do you think your style of humor is evolving, or was refined when you were younger by the influences that you grew up with?
I hope it's evolving, or otherwise, God, how boring. Otherwise, you know. But like
you have a certain style of humor that you know, like it's like experimental, it's gag driven. Like, have you deconstructed what your humor even is and why it is a thing? Like. You know, maybe you had some obscure like influences growing up that kind of influenced how you think things are funny.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of old, like, a ton. I mean, the amount of Looney Tunes I was just like pumping into my head every day was like
The
medical,
only
you
thing to
know?
watch as a kid.
Yeah, I loved them. I could still watch them. They're great. I mean, the
Yeah.
ones I've seen a million times, I still love them. Like the I fell asleep to Baby Bottleneck last night. Like I was just like, oh, they added it, like it's on, and I watched it like a few times in a row just because it's so beautifully animated. But like so those were, I don't know. It's like you only know by experimenting and like trying stuff out and seeing new things, or like the new thing I did new that the newer thing I do that's like a more recent thing in my life is I'll watch something I don't like and find something in it that I love. Because it's, you know, and I love that sense of like, well, now I got to hunt for it. You know, it's like, well, this movie that we watched all the Twilight movies, my fiance and I, we watched all of the Twilight movies in a row, all 5 of them. And like, by the end, I was like, these movies fucking rule. These are the funniest movies. These were blockbusters. These were blockbusters.
I haven't seen any of them, so maybe I should try this as well. I do the exact same thing you're talking about with music, because like I'm not a huge R&B or rap fan, but I have friends who like it, and so every time it's on, I like specifically, I'm like, I need to get into this, and then by the end of the song, I'm like, I can listen to more of this. This is great. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I know what you're
grow
saying.
And they change and they define themselves.
Like forcing your mind to just have a blank slate and experience something for what it is. Versus it's like come in and be like, I don't like this genre.
I know, it's so limiting, and it's also, it's like the, you know, the self-imposed limits that you like put on yourself of like, well, this is me, I'm Branson, I know
what I like. Music. I'm over 30 now. Like,
yeah, I mean, some of that is necessary so that you have shape to your personality. But I also think it's like most people are more robust than they think they are, and it's like I'm not gonna stop being me if I really like listen to a Toby Keith song and I'm like, well, is there something good here?
Yeah.
Like it could, you know, it's like what you.
So do you think watching the whole Twilight series and enjoying it changed you, or it still made, you know, the same old Branson who maybe just liked Twilight?
It's just me. I'm still me. I just learned what I appreciated about it, which is that it's sick. It is a morally vile, like, blockbuster. There are 5 movies that all of them made like millions and millions of dollars, or an impressive amount of money is. Like, they were making a ton of money, and they're sick. I mean, she's wasting away during pregnancy. Like, these are like socially conservative, like, abusive, like, these are sick movies. And so watching, I felt like I was John Waters, just like, I love it, you know, like, this is just like,
I've never heard anybody describe them as this before. Maybe I'm gonna have to give them a watch now. This is hilarious.
They're fucked up movies.
Yeah,
and that's like exciting. I mean, it's like now we're out of it. Like we're not in the middle of Twilight, so it's a little easier to have some distance. Just it's like, but you know, now like all the Marvel movies, it's like these are horny. These are like 5 horny movies. That you don't see a lot of that anymore.
Can you start a movie review site, like screw Rotten Tomatoes? It'll be like Branson's reviews, and it's like the Marvel movies. You'll be like, they're so horny. People will.
I wish the Marvel movies were horny. They're not. I mean, those are completely neutered. And so, you know, you see these like from even like 10 years ago now. These blockbusters is like, oh my god, everyone's about to pop. Like these people are too horny to drive a car. Like like you don't see a lot of that on the big screen anymore. Which is, I hope it comes back. It's a shame we lost it.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I feel like I mean, you've satisfied all my like career answers, etc. So like, if there's anything you wanted to still chat about, I'm still game. But
yeah, I mean, what are you watching? I've been talking about myself. How rude.
I
mean, I know that's the gist of it, but like, I am curious. I'm like, what is like. What are you, in terms of like animation specifically, like what are you into? Like what's exciting to you?
So I'm not watching anything right now. I like serialist. I don't know if that's a word, but like I crave new and short, just what people are doing. Like I love going through Instagram and seeing somebody who's animated like 2 seconds of like this amazing like anime style thing. Or I love seeing like just somebody who's turned a stupid little blob with eyes and made it really cute and put music behind it. Like I just love seeing how people are experimenting with just different ways of animating and storytelling, and because I feel like I'm constantly absorbing and trying to like refine my style, and I love seeing what other people are doing and being like, oh, I can, my save for like Instagram and social media and like my computer and YouTube are just like full of stuff that I go back to all the time. And I'm like, maybe I can incorporate some of this into what I'm doing for my next project, etc. So like, I don't know. I go through waves where I do binge TV, and actually, I recently, because I had never watched it, I started binging the original Dragon Ball series, and I'm like 97 episodes in or something.
Oh damn, almost a third of the way through. That's
Yeah, right.
incredible.
And I don't know if I'll continue because I just got intimidated by the amount of episodes left and how the formula is just like the same over and over again. But even that, like I'd never seen it before, and there's like nudity in it. There's like, you know, the whole world they built is like totally different than any other animated series I've seen. Like there are robots and there's a dinosaur that can talk and it's like eating another character. It's just like it was very eye-opening actually, and kind of interesting to watch. And I feel like animation that I've seen just like in mainstream television, whatever, it's very formulaic to you know, this is what kids want, and so we're going to create it, and there's not a lot of risks taken, and the style, there's not a lot of stylistic risks, etc. So I don't know, I'm also developing some pitches right now and I'm pitching them around, and I hope that something can take off because I have some really cool and interesting ideas of what I want to do, even just stylistically with what's appearing on a screen. Like my big thing is like that I also love to explore in stop motion too. I'm just talking. The interviews now about me is
great,
you know,
but I'm curious. Yeah,
I don't like consistency is great. Like, you know, you have like your SpongeBob character and he looks the same if he's this big or this big, and he does turn around and they, you know, well, maybe SpongeBob's a bad example because they also do like highly detailed paintings. But I love when characters are just a representation of themselves. Like, why not just have in a scene like SpongeBob's yellow, just have like a yellow square or blob just like bouncing across the screen to like represent him getting from point A to B instead of his fully rendered walking style. Like I would love to even just do that and explore style that way with a show, etc.
This to me is what's so exciting about like I'm like obsessed with like smear frames and smear animation of like that you'll see it, you know what I mean? It's like I was looking up at a smear frame from Baby Bottleneck last night, which is Robert Clampett, Daffy and Porky together again, and it's Daffy being thrown into the ground by Porky, and he turns into like a puddle, and it's like it's a puddle, but it's still recognizable as Daffy because the colors are there, the shape,
the black, the orange,
the shape, you know, like it's not even the shape physically, it's the shape of like his personality. Like it's just like that's Daffy, and that's mind blowing to me that I mean, the classic example of Daffy is Duck Amuck, where his physical form is like fucked with beyond recognition by Bugs Bunny, but it's always recognizable. His voice changes, his form changes, but it's always him, you know. And like that's so exciting to think like how do we maintain
it's like how can we play around? Like you're in animation, you can do anything. How can you play around with that on screen instead of, you know, making it this universe where everything's so consistent and just is? Like I love what, you know, Bugs Bunny's great for doing that. There's so many different ways, like even with a eraser, like erasing Daffy until he's just a beak, etc. But also, as you're talking, I've never, you know, something I've never seen, which is just a weird idea, is like I've never seen a smear frame character before, like a character designed just as a smear frame. Just
and he has no non-smear, he's always moving.
Yeah, or he's just designed as the smear frame, like, or whatever. He's got,
that's
like,
fun.
You know, 10 arms that are in process
like
of
huge
just
eye.
his eye. Yeah.
That's fun.
So there's
a pitch right there.
There we go. The Branson and Terry smear frame consistency show pitch right there. And
we'll work on the name, but that's definitely the spirit is there. It's funny. The thing you mentioned too, I have this a lot myself, not to bring it back to me, but there's all these shows out there, right? There's all these people have worked on them and all this money has gone into them. And still I find myself drawn to, it's like you get a toy, right? And then the cat just wants to play with the box the toy came in, of like
totally.
I still find myself drawn to like 2-second animations that somebody made and they're like, hey, nobody paid me for this, I just made it myself. That's always appealing to me.
1000%.
And it's like to wrangle it back into like what we were talking about, like see if I can even do it. Like to me the dream is to make a show that captures that.
I feel like the first time I watched the pilot for Adventure Time felt like that, because it just felt like a bunch of friends made this thing. There was a song, there was some wacky animation I hadn't seen before. The dog had long legs. There was an internet joke. Like it just felt kind kind of like that. And, you know, like Charlie the Horse and stuff like that from like the internet, which is now like a whole series that you can watch. Like, it's crazy.
There you go.
So,
it's like how you capture that. How do you maintain that? This is a big, and also to tie it again around, this is a big part of why I wanted to go to Augenblick Studios, is because that felt like the way to do it. That felt like the way to make it fun and make it contagious, how it was fun. Because I remember watching their stuff and being like, that's fun. This looks, I'm excited by the way, simply just the way things move in these cartoons is funny to me. Like,
I remember seeing Super Joe for the first time. It was, I don't know how long ago. And I was like, this looks like somebody made it in like almost like MS Paint and animated it. And I was like, it feels wrong, but it's just like, I fell in love with it immediately and like binge watched the entire thing like twice in a row.
They capture the feeling of like you're drawing something on your desk and you're gonna have to wipe it off before the teacher sees it. It's like
exactly.
They made a whole show of that feeling. That's exciting.
Totally. Yeah. All right. I don't want to keep you forever, but I've loved this chat. So I'm now going to set up 10 more meetings just behind the scenes, just where you and I just chat about whatever. But I think the podcast is coming to a wrap.
This smeary guy off the ground.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Branson. I super appreciate it. And I've enjoyed hearing your whole story and chatting about animation with you.
Oh my God. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And if you're listening and you want to reach out or follow or check out Branson's stuff, you can look him up on Twitter at Branson Reese or on Instagram at Branson of God. And I'll include those links in the description of this podcast. And of course, make sure you check out Swanboy on Cake FX. And that's all for now. So thank you so much for listening. Okay, bye. The music for this podcast was composed by Will Farmer and the graphics by Daniel Abensauer. I encourage you to look them up if you enjoyed their work.